I don't know if anyone here remembers a movie from the 60s, a Truffaut film with Jean-Pierre Léaud called The 400 Coups. Um, that was about a teenager caught in the penal system in France. And I read a piece this morning by Laura Lentz, who's a writer that publishes on Medium and maybe even Substack, um, about an American, well, it's basically an American version of that story about a girl who was arrested um, breaking into houses in her neighborhood. And what would likely happen to her? Both of her parents were in prison. She was living in a house, an abandoned house with 8 men sleeping on the floor in the living room. Um, and she didn't have any money or any way to have money. And she wanted money for food. So she was breaking into houses and stealing things. So Laura Lentz and her 11-year-old daughter uh, went to court to identify her, and um, and they actually had a very different attitude toward her than everyone else whose houses had been robbed. Those people were furious and they wanted her punished. Um, so um, Laura Lentz and her daughter talked to not the judge, but one of the police officers there just to find out her story. And it turned out that um, she was definitely going to be put in a reform school. And she would maybe get a rudimentary education there. She was in for a hard time, though. I mean, you can imagine. Well, when we think about how we treat people in desperate circumstances in our society, we basically look at them as miscreants and mischief makers and criminals, and we do believe that our solution is to cause them enough pain so they will never do it again. And that's our system. That's basically how we treat these people who are in desperate circumstances and they're just trying to survive. Well, you can probably guess that I don't agree with that. I think that there are countries, probably Nordic countries, who understand rehabilitation, who actually don't inflict pain so that those people will somehow reform themselves and learn their lesson, but actually teach them a trade, give them an education, give them a chance to actually make a life. What kind of people are we when we're desperate? What kind of people would you be if you didn't have a place to live or anything to eat? And especially if you were a child. It doesn't take much imagination to realize those people don't have a lot of options. And our society doesn't really help. Reformatory, prison, to be put into a enclosed space with some very angry people and people with no sense of compassion. That's gonna reform somebody. Come on. Anyway, it seems to me that we're gonna have to um, do something about the fact that in our society we have poor criminals and rich criminals, and the rich criminals can do pretty much what they want to. As a matter of fact, we have a rich criminal in the White House. We have a gang of rich criminals getting even richer that surround him. And why do we have that? It's because we admire money. It's because we admire people who can beat the system somehow and make a lot of money, and we equate that money with virtue, with intelligence, which it is not. It can be cunning, it can be inherited, it can be a, a matter of luck, and it can be a matter of hard work. Yeah, I understand that. But it doesn't mean you're wise. It doesn't mean you have any real depth. This is the American idea that surviving really well means you're superior. The, the poor refugees that flocked from all over the world to the American continent and overwhelmed the natives and created a culture of greed. This is what we live with and take for granted. We take it for granted. We raise our children in it. We ourselves are damaged by it. I think that after the Trump era is over, we're going to have a big house cleaning, and we're going to have to rethink our system. We're going to have to think about what our values are, what is really worthwhile in life. It's not um, it's not going to be able to continue in this direction without major catastrophes happening, and not just in America. Trump has the ability to create a Holocaust, and he's the one person that who can order um, an atomic bomb launched, and nobody can say no. And he's not well. This is a problem. We're going to have to reform the system from top to bottom.